Recording. There you go, Jim.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to this Chill with Jim episode where it is always business up top and pajamas on the bottom. I am your host. My name is Jim McCarthy, and I am the client advocate for Strix, Louisiana. My job is to make sure our clients are set up with the best equipment, software, and IT solutions. That way they are running at optimal efficiency. We also have the owner of Strix, Louisiana, David DeArmond, with us.
Hey, everybody. I am David DeArmond, owner of Strix LA. As owner, it is my job to pretend like I know what I'm doing.
He's a good pretender. So just a little bit about Strix. We like to be a solutions provider to our clients as well as others. We also like to think of ourselves and try to be technology superheroes. So some of this, what this looks like for us is we believe there's always a better, simpler, more secure way. And so what we're doing is we're constantly searching and adapting our processes to make sure that we do have the best solutions in place for all of our clients. We believe that part of this responsibility is to help our clients and others through this whole process by educating them on some of the things going on right now. So we like to talk about the best ways to use their equipment, the resources that are out there. We bring awareness to some of the security issues that are going on today and just discussed overall trends in the IT world. So today we are actually talking about voice over IP. Now this is also known as VoIP. It sounds like an alien word for something, but we'll probably be referring to it as VoIP, voice over IP. Now what happens with voice over IP is it takes a person's voice and it transmits it into digital data. This digital data is then sliced into small fragments called packets, and these are sent across the internet at lightning speed. And then these packets are actually reconstructed so that the person on the other side of the phone can hear what's going on. And it's so funny when I was reading this and researching, I love this definition because it reminds me of Willy Wonka when they make the chocolate bar go from gigantic to small on the TV, and they're looking up at all the particles going through the air. And you know, that's what I thought it was really funny because that's exactly what I picture when I read this. When they're dialing back in the guy who gets shrunken down. That's one of my favorite movies. So I got excited when I read that. So a little bit about today. You know, we'll be talking about what voice over IP is in not such technical terms. We'll go over some of the benefits, and then we'll go into what's needed to get set up for voice over IP. You know, some of the benefits we'll be talking about are lower costs, increased accessibility, complete portability, higher scalability, more flexibility with soft phones, and then we'll be talking about texting, sending files, and video calls.
That was a lot of abilities there.
There's a lot of abilities, yes. They are super abilities sometimes, they seem like. So before we get started with that, what we'd like to go over is we'd like to go over some of the terminology that's going to be used in this discussion. So I am going to share my screen here with everybody and make sure you guys can all see that. Yep, okay. Cool, so this is a form that we give all of our clients that are looking to switch over, and it just goes over some of the technology and some of the terminology that's going to be used. So the first one, you know, David, the soft phone things that's listed on here, how do you describe what is a soft phone?
Well, that's taking the term phone and software and mashing them together into a great mashup. And so basically it turns your phone into a piece of software, which means it can run on a computer or on a smartphone, because it's no longer a physical phone. You can't pick it up and throw it, which a lot of people get upset that you can no longer throw your phone. But it does allow you to carry it with you everywhere you go. If you're on your computer on your laptop and you need to go work somewhere else, you're bringing your phone with you and you don't have to carry some bulky thing. So it is a software phone, and one of my favorite things about VoIP.
Me too, me too. That also kind of explains the next area there, a desk phone. So a desk phone is the traditional, it's on your desk, you pick it up, it's the hard device that's a separate piece of equipment. Now with voice over IP, you can use this desk phones as well. A lot of people still prefer to have that. So it is definitely possible. Next item on the list, auto attendant. David, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's kind of like a receptionist that's a piece of software. So the auto attendant is going to run in the background on your um, PBX, they call it, which is the phone software basically. And the auto attendant is going to automatically answer the call for you, and you program it so that it could be your voice, it could be a great robot voice, or a friendly lady that is speaking for you, but it's going to answer the call for you. It's going to give information to the person that is calling in, give them their options, dial 1 for sales, dial 2 for support, dial 3 if your house is on fire, something like that. So the auto attendant is going to automatically attend your phone call. That's where the name auto attendant comes from, and help you route the call to the right place.
Okay, and then so is that kind of gets into the call flow as well. What we talk about call flow here. What should we consider when we're deciding that?
Yeah, I like the way it's written on here. It's a roadmap to how the call is going to be handled. So if you think of a flow, or river or whatever, it goes down a certain direction that'll follow the paths. It may split into other areas. What we're looking for here is, how do you route your calls now? So when someone calls in, where do you want them to go? If you have dial 1 for sales, dial 2 for support, what are all of those different places that a call may route to, and what do you want the call to do after that? Because we're going to use that information to program your phone system so that any calls that come in, we can automate that as much as possible and make it as efficient as possible.
Yep. So, and kind of what that looks like for us. So if someone calls into Strix and they hit, let's say, technical support or something like that, it might ring to me first because I'm front of the line. And so if I don't pick up maybe on the second ring, it's going to go over to David, and so down the line throughout the Strix team, it'll hit each person that we designate in order. Call groups, David, what are they talking about here with call groups and group members?
Yeah, well, the call group is a group of people that, or group of extensions probably on a phone system, that you want to treat as one. So if we're talking about a sales team, let's say you have an entire sales team, you can set up a group so that a phone call that comes in, they press 1 for sales, it rings everybody's phone, and whoever answers it first, maybe they get the opportunity, or like Jim said, it will go from one person to the other sequentially through that group. And so it allows you to put just certain people so that it's not calling, Beth in accounting. You don't want Beth in accounting answering the sales call, but you do want Beth from accounting answering an accounting call, an invoicing call. So you put them in different groups so that you can better program your call flow that your auto attendant is going to use. So yeah, it builds on each other there.
All right. And then some of the features they have here, if desktop app, what's actually, if you want to just go through the line here, David, and just give us a brief description of each of these options that people, you're going to want to select each of these when you're ordering your service.
Yeah, you want to, as you're planning this out, you really have to put some forethought into it to make sure that you get the functionality you need when you're placing your order with the voice over IP phone company. So the desktop app, do you want that's your soft phone? Do you want that? Some people don't want it. Some people, they want to keep that hard phone. So we need to know, is that something that you want? We'll have to make sure that the service you get has soft phones and that it routes correctly. Call recording. You hear very often when you call different businesses, all calls may be recorded for quality assurance. Do you want that? A lot of times that costs extra, and so you need to decide, hey, do I want call recording, or is that something that I don't really need, and so I'm not going to pay extra for it. SMS messaging. This is a big one. So SMS messaging, that is basically the same as text messages. Many of the voice over IP systems will allow you to have SMS messaging, text messaging on the soft phone. Not all of them do. So you have to be careful. If that's something you want, if that's something that you're going to use, you have to be careful about the provider that you select, because not all voice over IP companies allow SMS messaging. And then again, it may cost extra for you to add that. Audio conferencing, so that's getting a group of people together, 3, 4, 5 people on an audio conference. Again, does the provider you're looking for, do they offer that? And if they do, does it cost extra? Online meetings. So somebody like Ring Central actually has an agreement with Zoom, and so Ring Central has online meetings, just like we're having right now. It doesn't say Zoom on it. They've white labeled it so that it's Ring Central, but it's the same exact platform. Some providers offer that, some providers don't, and the same thing with internet fax. So rather than have that fax machine sitting there that makes a bunch of noise and you can hear it printing out there, you can have internet fax where it's going to come into, again, your soft phone, or maybe you set it up to email you directly, and it's going to send you an email with that fax attached to it. So those are some of the big ones that we find people typically want, and you have to be very careful about making sure that you order the right features for what your business needs to do.
Awesome, great explanation. Thank you for that breakdown of everything. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about some of those benefits I mentioned earlier. First one is cost. Most of the time with your typical phone companies, you're going to sometimes pay for long distance calling. If you make an out of country call, they're going to charge you for that. And then sometimes they even have a length of like how much time you're spending on the phone. They might actually charge you based off of that. These are things that with voice over IP, you don't really have to worry about those extra charges. Additionally, all the features that traditional phone companies usually charge you for, like voicemail, caller ID, call waiting, conference calling, a lot of times they'll charge you for a simultaneous ring or the ability to choose your own area code. These are things that are almost always included with your voice over IP service. So that's where you're going to save quite a bit of money there. You also have to think about the equipment and the installation. So you don't have to worry about buying actual phones if you don't want them. You don't have to worry about getting your office outfitted for all the phone lines. Depending on the building you're in, they might not even have phone lines set up besides in one office. So that's where you can save quite a bit of money. On the access, I did this last time, accessibility topic here, as long as you have a decent data connection, you can pretty much receive calls for your business wherever you're at. Now, what's great about this is when you're unable to answer the call, you can, most of the time with your service, easily direct that call to another person in the company. Or what we've enjoyed is you'll get an email with your voicemail in it. So you don't necessarily have to be on your phone system to see what's going on with your business. A lot of the times these voicemails are actually transcripted as well. So it'll just come up like a regular email where you can read exactly what the person left. You don't have to go back and listen to it. The other benefit here is the ability to take your phone wherever you go. With the soft phone app on your phone, on your smartphone, it goes with you wherever you want. Benefit and can be maybe not a benefit as well if you're looking to escape a little bit, but just turn it off. You're also looking at, so with the world right now as it is, and we've been prepping all of our clients for this for years, we just didn't know it would all happen at once in March, but everybody's increasingly going to a mobile workforce. With the remote accessibility, it allows you to be much more flexible with your business. Employees can stay productive regardless of where they're at. You don't have to have a physical office. We were talking with William earlier just about some of those benefits that come with not having the brick and mortar. And then think about it, if you have a smartphone, your computer, or a tablet with you, you have your phone with you at all times. So all you need is a device. The portability is great. You have a virtual number through the voice over IP. So it means that it can work wherever you go, like we talked about, but it's not specific to being in that area code or being in that state, even being in that country. As long as you have a connection, you're able to use that just like normal, just like if you are at the office.
Which is why so many foreigners can call you from your area code.
Yes.
Strangely enough.
Yes, they just.
And those Nigerian princes that just happen to be living in the 225 area code. Bizarre.
They really like calling me. I don't know why. Another highlight here would be, so if your business has workers that are in the field, it's been such a problem to have let's say you have an electrical company. You have your electrician on site using their cell phone for all of their business stuff. So that means if the client or if your customer needs to call this electrician for any reason, they're getting a direct line to your electrician and to your employee. And this is really not the best practice here. Opens up the door for, hey, maybe this employee wants to open up their own electrical shop. They have all your contacts in their phone. It also just gets away from, it gives the business a more clear view of what's going on. So they know when they're calling, when they're getting phone calls, they know what your employees are doing. So that's been a huge selling point for voice over IP. The scalability, so let's say you're opening a new office. Like we talked about, you don't have to worry about purchasing new equipment. You don't have to worry about running those phone lines. Your office is probably going to have an internet connection of some sort. So whether that's a hardwire or a Wi-Fi connection, that's infrastructure that your voice over IP needs is already built at the office or the home location that you're going to. So it really allows you to ramp up your wherever you want to open business. It's very easy to do. And the other thing that's really awesome, David touched on it a bit, but let's say you're a business based in Baton Rouge, but a lot of the companies you work with are in Denver, Colorado. Or maybe you want to branch out, like William was talking about, going into other states. The great thing is you can set up a phone number with a local area code, so it doesn't look like you're calling from Baton Rouge. You're going to get a lot more people answering the phone if they're not like, well, who is this calling me from Baton Rouge every day? Well, I'm not going to talk to them. So that's a great benefit of it. You have,
I'm sorry, can I stop you there? Okay.
Do it.
I don't mean to jump in, but so if I had, so like we're expanding, I'm having to, because I have a customer that's expanding into Mississippi. So of course I've got to go get licensed in Mississippi. So if I wanted to start selling in Mississippi, I can actually have Mississippi numbers with voice over IP if I'm calling, maybe, trying to call on some other businesses while I'm there.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a game changer, right? Because I know for us, we get so skeptical of me personally and as a business, so skeptical of a number calling from another state. What are they trying to sell me?
Right.
So yeah, you can set up a Mississippi area code so it looks like you're right next door to where their business is.
Yeah, and with some services, it's as simple as when you go to make the phone call, you drop down and select which phone number you want to use as your outgoing caller ID,
Okay.
and you make the call. So you call Mississippi once, you call Texas next, then you call New Orleans, you call Monroe, you call Baton Rouge, and you're changing your area code each time you make that call, so that the person on the other end of the line feels that you are in their area code. You're going to do that as your business because you're selling there. You're going to make your presence known there. It's one step in making the customer feel like, yeah, I know that William is here for me because he's calling from right down the street. That's what it feels like to him.
I got you. Okay. But on the opposite end of that, if I wanted to add like a local number to, say, my website, whenever somebody's looking, because right now, the website being built out is it would basically says, well, we service Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, and with that, if somebody gets on the website and they want to see maybe not a Baton Rouge number, like a 225 area code, they want to see either, I guess, maybe a local number. Is that a possibility to get a local number for them to call in to get us?
Yeah, you certainly can do that. Now you're talking about some pretty extensive website marketing as well. So do you have a different website, or most websites you can program the website to change the phone number that shows on your website based off of where it's detecting the user is coming from, and so it can update the number. Now that gets a little bit more complex in your website creation, but so what a lot of companies do is they'll use that toll-free number, the 800 number, the 888 number, something like that. One of the great things about voice over IP is generally you have an online portal that you can go to look at the statistics. And so if you're publishing separate numbers like that, an important thing in your marketing is to see, is your website working? Is it converting? And so you can go online and look at, okay, so over this 2-week period, we ran a campaign in Mississippi. Did we get phone calls to that Mississippi number? So that it gives you all of that flexibility, and it's so easy. You could do most of this with a traditional phone line, but it's very difficult. It takes time to set up. It's usually expensive. With voice over IP, everything happens so quickly.
Okay. Now,
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, somewhat. Yes. Like on a hard phone, as opposed to, because I know when I was talking to Jim about the other phones, as far as you can use your cell phone to do everything you need to do. But if we have a couple of hard phones, is it a specific hard phone, oh, you can see this one back here. It's my virtual screen. Is there a specific phone that we have to use for that? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, you can route all of those numbers to go to the same phone. So as far as answering the phone, you can have the same hard phone sitting there, and every single one of those numbers, that's part of your call flow. So every single one of those numbers, they're going to ring back to that same extension. And most of them you can also program to add something to the caller ID, so that it's Mississippi, that the Mississippi number was called. And so when it rings, you see, MS and then the caller ID, and you say, okay, I know this is someone calling me from Mississippi, calling the Mississippi number, and you answer it accordingly.
I got you. Now with the smartphone, that I guess it's cell phone is the way y'all classify that. If somebody is calling into that phone, does it list that it would be forwarded? So it's not. So, I mean, if I've got, a random number that's just calling me that has my cell phone directly. So if somebody's called the office and it's coming to my cell phone, does it say, how does that list out? Does it say forwarded from, or what's the?
Generally, it's going to ring. You're going to have a separate application on your phone. So if someone calls your cell, it's going to look like the Apple or Android interface. Whereas if someone is calling your office, it's going to be the Ring Central app, the Citricom app, whatever application it is for the provider that you use. That application is going to pop up, so you know, okay, well that's a business call that's coming through, because it's not just forwarding the call to your cell, it's actually ringing to that application on your phone. Yeah. So it's very easy to see the difference.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Yep. Like, so for me, when I get a phone call on my app, and that says to the main number, it shows up in my phone. It says calling the main number on the app, so I know they're calling the main number. I also have my own direct line through the voice over IP service. And so if they're calling my direct line, it'll say the same thing in the application, like this number is calling your direct line. So that's where you'll be able to see exactly where or who they're trying to reach. But they all come through to the same point. And they ring simultaneously. So it's not like forwarding. It's just like all the, my phone's ringing, David's phone's ringing, Candace's phone's ringing, all at the same time. So we all get the call.
I got you. So if I'm at my office right now and say my wife is working from home from our home office, so if her phone rings, she sees that it's there, but she can't answer it. Could she either send that to a voicemail or answer it, say, and if they're looking for me, she can put them on hold from that cell phone and send them back to me? How would that work?
Yeah, as long as you're on the same phone system. So if they were to call, if for instance, if somebody calls TWFG, you're not necessarily going to be able to transfer that call to Strix within the application, but you can transfer it. If someone calls Strix, I can transfer it to Jim from the application.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. So if my wife is at the house, like that's kind of the reason behind switching to this system, is because where we're moving and where the office is located is 30 minutes apart from each other on a good day. So a lot of her work will probably be done from home, and she doesn't necessarily have to be in the office, because what she does is more administration type work. So auditing, paperwork, stuff like that. So right. But she still answers the phone. And if she's at the house and maybe I'm at a meeting or something, or in a meeting, she wants to be, and she answers it, they're looking for me. She wants to have the ability to send them to maybe my voicemail, or send them to my, send them to my phone, or somehow to where I can, even if I have to send them to a voicemail at that point, if I can't answer. That's kind of the reason.
Yeah, totally.
We have that same setup, William. I'm David's wife, and I'm at home, and we have a house line. And my house line is the office line. So when our main line at the office actually rings, it rings to my cell, Jim's cell, David's cell, and my home line. And then I can answer it, Strix, Louisiana, put them on hold, do what I need to do, and then check with David, hey, are you in a meeting? Are you busy? And we can shoot the call back wherever we need to. So yes, is the answer to your question. That's the same exact setup we have.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, that's what we're looking for, just to make life a little bit.
It works awesome.
Good deal.
Yep. Great questions. Thank you, William. We love the interaction, so anybody please hop in at any time.
I want to know about his office. Is that a Zoom background, or is that really your office?
No, that is a Zoom background. Our home office made these for us. And they made like half a dozen Zoom backgrounds for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get that all the time. They're like, man, that's a great office. I was like,
it looks so real. Yes, like it's sweet. I got on here, I'm like, wow, I need his decorator.
Need his graphic designer.
Yeah, if I had a couch like that in my office, you'd probably see me on the couch more.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you'd be napping a lot, I think, if you had that. Yeah, we need your Zoom decorator, The last benefit I was going to talk about here was texting, sending files, and video. Oh my! So many people have become accustomed to doing most of their communications through text. What's awesome about the voice over IP is we can now allow people to text our main number, and we get them and we can text them back. It's been a great feature because so many people just want to text.
Yeah, it was funny when we first implemented that, and it was I don't know, several years ago. I was shocked at how many people were actually texting our main line, and I had no idea because we didn't have that service before. And as soon as we turned it on, we started getting text messages to the main line. People love using text, so if you don't have that, you need it.
Yes, yeah, and that's what we like to do at Strix is we like to communicate the way that our clients prefer. So if they're texters, we want to have the ability. Another nice thing with the soft phone apps, is you can attach documents or send files through that text, send photos. It's very easy. And then you have a lot of the services, depending on which one, they will have a video conferencing or a video FaceTime type deal where you can have video interaction with everybody. So these are some of the great benefits here. A few of the cons you want to consider are you definitely need a reliable internet connection, and there are instances of latency and some jitter depending on what's going on with your network. So, your call quality is definitely affected by how your network is working. So if you have slow internet for some reason at that moment, or maybe there's a network problem, this can result in poor call quality. It'll actually sound like you're a transformer sometimes, so it's very robotic sounding. And the other issue that actually one of our clients brought up, wanted to make sure we mention, is that if there is a power outage, you will not be able to answer phone calls. In the past, you can answer phones no matter what. Even if the power's out, the phone line still carries that signal.
Yeah, that's something though that has been overcome in the last few years with the soft phones, and that's why I think soft phones are so important, because if you're running the soft phone on your computer and you're at the office and the power goes out, you lose your internet, you lose your computer. Yeah, you no longer have a phone, whereas in the past you had that copper line running directly to your phone. You could still take phone calls. But with soft phones and the advancements they've made, you have it ring to your cell phone, and very rarely it's got a battery, so you're not going to lose power there. And it's also connected to the cellular network. And so in general, I really voice over IP systems are actually more robust or more fault tolerant now than even a copper line, because I mean we've had it several times where a client was on copper and AT&T or some guy runs into a pole and knocks the phone system out. AT&T or somebody's digging and they cut the line accidentally. You don't have that problem anymore, because it's gonna go over the cellular network, and cellular networks, they've become so stable that you very often are going to keep your cellular network up.
Great point. Great point. So the few things you're going to probably need to get started. So wanted to go over those. You want a fast and reliable internet connection. We recommend a download speed of at least about 50 megabytes per second, just to make sure that, depending on your business, you can probably go down a little bit, but the size of your business, I mean, but that's just a good middle ground where you want to have enough bandwidth for everything to come through. For your computer, if you're using your computer as the main source of your phone connectivity, invest in a headset with a microphone. It'll help with the call quality on your end, as well as for them when they're listening, and it helps all of your office and coworkers and maybe your roommates from hearing everything you're talking about. So we recommend getting a headset. For the smartphone applications, you definitely want to get with your provider and make sure the provider of the cell phone, make sure that their application is going to work on your cell phone. It's a real tough move if you set everything up and they're like, oh, well, we don't have a good Android solution. So now you're without the cell phone capabilities you wanted to start with. And then when you're on your cell phone, depending on your plan, you might have some data limits. So try to connect to a Wi-Fi whenever possible, just to save your data from going through the roof. And another thing is with your network connectivity and your network connections, conditions and all that, you know, depending on, you can't always plan for when things are going to slow down, and when traffic gets really heavy, that can affect the quality of your phone calls. So what you want to do is you want to implement a QoS, or quality of service, on your router. And this will optimize your voice traffic on your network. This is something that we do for all of our clients. We'll put QoS into place so that way the voice gets the priority over all the data. And that's just to make sure that you're not dropping phone calls, you're not sounding like a robot, and things like that. So that's our intro to voice over IP, and we'd love to open it up now for questions, discussion. David, if I didn't touch on anything you can think of, you know.
Well, I love the fact that we have really a very wide range of audience. Even here today, there's a few people, but it's a pretty wide spectrum. So, Brad, you know, you guys are a little bit bigger company, whereas Carlene is a one-person shop, and William, you know, you're kind of in between there. So, I'd like to hear your experiences. Carlene, maybe you want to start. Do you use a voice over IP solution now? Have you looked into it? What do you do now?
I just basically use my cell phone. I don't use currently a VoIP. My cell phone is basically always worked for me. So that's just all I've ever used.
Yeah. So for a single person shop that is looking to stay just a single person shop, a lot of times the cell phone is good, unless you want to start separating things. So that there's two instances where a solopreneur may want to use a voice over IP. Number one, if they want to separate their business number from their personal number, because they want to be able to advertise a separate business number, you may want to do it then. The second instance is where a solopreneur may want to seem big. They may not want to show, especially if they're looking to grow over time, they may want to appear bigger than they are. So what you can do with a voice over IP system and a cloud-based PBX is you can set up that auto attendant. You can set up 5 different departments. Now the other side doesn't need to know that they all ring back to your phone. You know, do you want sales? Okay. And do you want support? Oh, okay. It makes you appear much bigger to your end customers. So that could be a reason that a solopreneur would go with voice over IP.
And Brad, how about your setup over there? What are things looking like for you? You know, what are some of the things you put into place to make sure everything's running like you want it?
So we do have an internal VoIP system set up, and from a management standpoint, I wish we didn't have an internal VoIP system. I wish it was hosted, but that's just because it's easier.
Yeah.
It takes that headache for me having to worry about it. It puts less vulnerabilities on the outside of our network. So yeah, from that standpoint, I was going to comment on the power outage thing. We're a company that does emergency response, so having disaster recovery is huge because we have to be in action when things are down. And so one thing that if your infrastructure, and you could even do this small scale, is set up correctly, your VoIP system can still work, especially if the phones are power over Ethernet. As long as the switches and everything is still up, your phones are going to be on.
Right.
But that all depends on the setup. But having the failover to cell phones nice.
Yeah, and you know, for you guys, if you don't have that backup power, then your whole phone system goes down, right?
That's correct. That is correct. So,
Yeah,
So you're using like UPS and stuff like that. You got a daisy chain of powers of batteries lined up, or how do you guys accomplish that?
I mean, it's battery backups, and then if needed, depending on the length, we would hook it up to a generator.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, that's one of the benefits of a cloud-based, like you mentioned, a cloud-based PBX, which is your phone system. If it's based in the cloud, then you're not as vulnerable to a power outage at your office. And like you said, they're typically easier to manage as well, especially because you don't have to worry about the hardware that goes into supporting that PBX. So thank you, Brad.
Great points. I'm allowing for my 5 to 8 second pause here, which I'm supposed to do to allow people to speak.
Hey, let me ask you another question. It's kind of unrelated to my current business, but if say you've got like a customer that has like a side hustle outside of that wants to start and have a separate number specifically for that, would you have to have a completely separate app and system to do all that, or could you have how would that work?
That really depends. If you are the owner of both businesses, then it's very easy to set it up within the same PBX, the same phone system, because you own both of them. Now, if you're an employee, then you have to have the conversation with your employer. Hey, is it okay if we set up a separate line that's for my side hustle? They, depending on the relationship with your employer, they may or may not do that. But yes, if you were the owner of both businesses, you could make it look like you had 3 or 4 different businesses running through there. So and they could all ring back to the same phone.
Yeah, that was my thought, is because I was looking at getting into something else as well, just kind of on the side. And as opposed to having to go through a completely different setup and all that, just have like a number for it. That way it can ring. And that way it kind of looks like a legitimate business and nothing.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's very good use for it.
Yeah, and it just helps so much with qualifying your phone calls, like when it's just coming to your cell, it's really tough to know if it's business related, if it's telemarketer related. So that brings it all into one central spot, and you know that, hey, and if you set it up correctly, you'll know for your side business that, oh, they're calling Williams underwater basket weaving program. So
Well,
that's
the issue I've had, is because I've had this same cell number I've had for a long time, man. That's a lot. It's been out there because I'll tell you how old the cell number is. It was an original Nextel number that was given to me. So if you can imagine how long ago that was. So I've been using that number, and that number has been out there for a long time. But in a lot of times, I don't know who it is, and I'd like to be able to kind of separate who's calling my cell phone directly and who has it, because a lot of times I will not answer a phone number I don't recognize. That's not because I try to program everybody's number into my cell phone that I know or will talk to in the future.
Right.
But I try to filter out as much as that I can, and I certainly don't want, especially doing this. I've been handing out cards forever now with my cell number on it. That's the problem. I don't want every customer to have my personal number to call me at 10:30 at night. Hey, I've got an insurance issue. Well,
right.
Wait till regular business hours. So some people. I'm not trying to sound like a ass or anything, but some people I could do that with. Like there are some customers that I would probably answer that phone in the middle of the night if they have a, you know, real pressing need. But I mean, to have 2,000 people that's on your book, to have them calling you at all hours of the night, that's kind of what I'm trying to get away from and avoid. So, and that was kind of the thought behind it. I don't, going forward.
Brad, did you have something?
Yeah,
On-
that what he was saying is probably one of my favorite features of certain phone systems, where you can have that number. You can set hours that you can be reached.
Yeah.
You can put in do not disturb, so if you don't want them to reach you at all. You can even, a lot of the systems will even let you do like call, inbound call, where it automatically either sends them to a certain place based on their inbound number, or will automatically reject them, or let them through after hours.
I got it.
And that's what I was going to say. That's a great point from Brad, because we have some clients that are on contract 8 to 5, our normal business hours. And then we have one that we signed recently that's a 24-hour, like we have to catch every phone call, whether it's 1 a.m. And we can, you know, you can set different things. And especially since mine routes to my house phone, and, you know, 1 a.m. when my kids are sleeping, I don't want the office ring single phone call, you know. So it's nice to be able to set the hours and all on that.
So it's basically, it's a very customizable system to use.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, depending on which one you get, and that's where you have to be careful, because there are a lot of very low cost solutions out there. You have to do some homework. You know, if you're looking at something like Grasshopper, which a lot of solopreneurs use, doesn't have all the functionality that you really need, and it doesn't have the reliability that you need. You've really got to dig into that, and that's why we have the form that Jim showed you guys, because you have to ask those questions and you have to think about that ahead of time. Another very important thing that you have to look at is what's called porting the numbers. So porting a number means you're taking the same phone number and you're going from one phone provider to another provider. And a lot of numbers you can do that, especially today. It's much more common. But there may be some number that Nextel number, it's a really old one. And you know, you may want to move that over to a voice over IP system, but it may not be allowed to. And so that's something that you have to check before. You don't want to check that after you've started the process and selected a solution, because then the solution doesn't fit your needs anymore. That's something that you need to look at beforehand. So we go through and say, well, what phone numbers do you want to move over? And we're going to check that first. Before we sign up with anybody, we're going to go look and see, can you move these numbers?
I got you. All right. Well, yeah, these original numbers, like my office lines and things like that, they were with AT&T. Switched from AT&T to Cox and then back to AT&T just because Cox is for business. But right now, but you do get what you pay for. I am finding with AT&T, because even though they are about half the price of Cox, their signal, for whatever reason. I mean, I get people a lot of times that can't even hear me, or they'll have to call back, or we get really like interference in the line all the time for some reason. Now it could be on the other end of that, where it is that, you know, that individual's phone, but it happens way more often right now. And that's one of the things that it is probably the most aggravating thing, is to have to hang up with a customer and then call them right back. So,
yeah, and that's one of the, that is one of the downsides of a voice over IP system. And like Jim mentioned, do you have good internet connectivity? Because if you don't, you're going to have a lot of issues like that. We generally, before we put somebody on voice over IP, we run a test and we look at your internet connection, and is it stable? Are you dropping packets? Because if you are, you got to get that fixed first before you go to voice over IP. You need to get that fixed first. If your office is in a you plan on using your cell most of the time and using the cellular network, but where your office is or where your house is a big dead spot. You need to know that. You need to think about that before you decide to go to a voice over IP system, because a copper line, the traditional copper telephone line, those are extremely stable. You know, those sound great. So those are all very important considerations.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, on the porting, side of things, we helped a client switch over recently, and what they had done since they started business was the owner of the business was using the cell phone for all of the company calls. It was even on their cards as his cell phone. So, well, when they got big, the last, they've been in business 2 or 3 years, he's just getting hammered with every single phone call to the business is coming to his cell phone. So what we ended up doing for them, and this is very recent, but we took that same cell phone number, ported it over to the voice over IP. So now that is officially the company line. It rings to the company. And then actually what the guy with the owner with the cell phone did is he got a new cell phone number. And that just took him out of the equation because, he was having to work. He's an electrician. He's working on all these things and there's phone calls and he's the only one getting them. So yeah, yeah.
What was that vibration? A call coming through, or did I just touch a hotline? You want to know the answer to that question.
That was a very important thing that we had to work with both companies on, the voice over IP company and the customer to make sure that they're talking with their cell phone provider. Their cell phone provider is going to let that number go, and that the voice over IP company is able to then take it in. If they were if it wasn't able to happen and we didn't check those boxes, they wouldn't be getting any phone calls. So a lot of things with the porting you want to consider, but the thing that's been great to see with our experience is almost all companies now are releasing their numbers. When this first started, you had to buy them. You had to buy them out. You had to pay a few $100 to get your number to another place. Not saying that doesn't happen now, but it's a lot less common. You can usually port it over for free, so it's nice.
And I will say, if your current number is with AT&T and you decide to make a change, be sure to leave yourself a pretty good window. AT&T is notoriously slow and difficult in porting numbers. So William, if you do decide to make a change, be sure that you plan enough time in between to give AT&T the opportunity to actually get that number moved.
Gotcha. All right. Hey, typically how much is the cost of getting an extra number? So if I've got right now, I've got a main line, I've got a fax line, which in this day and age, people still fax me, which is bizarre, but all right. And I do have a rollover line as well, just in case somebody if I'm on the phone here and it calls in, somebody calls in, there's a rollover line as well. I mean, I would port all three, or move all three. And I would like to do the fax where somebody faxes me, it comes to an email, because that just makes it a whole lot easier. Because a lot of times the people that are faxing me are going to be mortgage companies that are looking for mortgagee changes, and it's simple stuff like that. And that way, if it comes to if it comes to that fax number and it emails me, it's easier for us to keep track of. For it's mainly for E&O reasons. That way, if it doesn't get done, that we or they say, hey, we did fax this to you, and we don't have any record of it. That's kind of the thought behind going forward with that.
Yeah. The price is really going to be determined by what you want to do with the line. So you're probably going to start at around $5 per line, so per phone number, and that is that is just giving you the phone number so that number will ring to your phone system. If that's basically all you're using it for. So your lines that maybe you open in Mississippi and Texas and all of the different locations, the different area codes, those are generally going to run you about $5 per month. Now, as you start adding functionality, so fax, well, that's going to cost you a little bit more. That may cost you $15 per month. If you want the phone number to ring to an extension, per extension on your line is generally going to cost you $25 to $30 per month. So usually when we're estimating the cost, how many people do you have? So if you have 3 employees, you're probably going to spend $75 to $90, somewhere $100 per month for those 3 employees. And then any extra phone numbers that you add on is going to be $5 more per month. If you add a fax, that may be $15 a month. So those are some general rough estimates of what you're going to see out there. Every company is a little bit different, and if you get some more advanced features, then that price may go up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but it's very nice to have direct lines. You know, all of us have our direct lines, so, and extensions. It just makes it easy. If I need to get the phone call to me right away, and you know, hot hands David quick draw McGraw is on the line and they're calling the main line, I might miss it. Then he's got to transfer it over. Now I'm cutting into his productivity. So just to drop that, you know, direct line, they can call Jim directly. But then what's awesome is if a main line, someone calls the main line, I see that too. They ring in like it's exactly the same. So I think that was a great point to bring up. We each of us have our direct line, and then once you get into other states, you're going to want to set up something, you know, something along those lines. You know, maybe you don't give it its own extension, but you can at least have that option.
Yeah, and maybe you start with it just ringing to your phone, but that area is growing, and you want to put a salesman out there. You keep that same exact number, and you just route it to you get an extension, and you route that number to the salesman's extension. You don't have to go and change numbers. It's a few clicks to change the call flow, the routing, and now you're up and running with the salesman. So it gives you so much flexibility.
Yeah. And there's quite a few companies out there that offer this. So do some homework. You know, from our experience, we've worked with RingCentral and Citricom. Overall, we've liked both. Right now we are on Citricom, and they've been a great solution. They have a very easy to work with PBX, so their online portal basically to direct all these calls and to do all these things we're talking about. It's very intuitive, and so we've enjoyed that. And but RingCentral was also, I thought, was a pretty good solution as well.
Yeah, I've used it. It's been years, but I've used both Jive and Freedom Voice, and both of those were pretty good solutions. Generally, we end up moving from one to the other based on the functionality that they have. All 4 of those that I mentioned have good quality, but what their capabilities may change a little bit, or their price may change a little bit. So that's why we have to answer the questions beforehand. What exactly do you want to do? Because in some instances, RingCentral may be best, and another Freedom Voice may be best, and another maybe Citricom.
Well, and as far as RingCentral goes for William and what he's trying to do with his wife, that one might not be the best, because one of the main reasons we swapped William was because it wouldn't ring to all of us at the same time. And we told who it was ringing to, and it seems like it was good at first though. So I'm not sure if we ever quite figured out that problem. So we went ahead and swapped, and it's working great now on Citricom. It rings to all of us at the same time, and we can tell. Before it was like, we're messaging, hey Jim, did you answer that? Because it only rang for half a ring on my end. Well, David, did you get it? You know, so that was a big hiccup for us with them, is it just wasn't simultaneous ringing to all the numbers that we had set up. So things out.
Yeah. So there's a lot of information we threw out there. William, did you have another question?
I don't think so. I mean, y'all kind of answered a lot of what I had. I mean, I know we need to do something soon, so whenever y'all get a chance, just holler at me. Because we're moving in. We're moving in next Friday, hopefully. So if all goes right, but yeah, we're trying to get, once we get, you know, set up at the house and all that, it's just going to be, it needs to make, because right now it's like chaos. I mean, we've got so much going on, and this is kind of the busiest time right now, because everybody's trying to get things done before school. Well, if school starts, but before school starts and all that, before fall hits. And, you know, I got a large rush during the summer months. So yeah, but once things calm down, it'll be a little better, but it's not going to be calm for the next few months until we get things squared away. And trying to get all this, you know, has been, you know, having to deal with AT&T and dealing with static lines, it's been nonsense, to be honest with you. And the functionality that they have hasn't been great. I mean, I got to the point to where whenever everything got shut down in March and everybody started working from home, I mean, I called AT&T directly and I said, look, this is what I'm going to have to be doing. Is there the ability to have that? And I'm like, oh, we have nothing for you. So, I mean, I ended up having to go get a Google number, a Google Plus number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I knew I was going to be at home and I didn't want to be calling everybody from my cell number. So, I mean, I had to go get a Google number. That way I could at least call from a randomized number. And
Yeah.
it wasn't.
I've been very surprised at how slow the big established telephone companies have been with adding functionality. We've run into the same thing with Cox, and they're moving a little bit faster than AT&T. But the same thing. It's like we want this functionality. There are 15 other voice over IP companies out there that offer this. Surely you offer it. No, we don't have that.
Right. And that was what I mean, the minute I knew I was going to be home for a couple of weeks, because when my wife had to go get tested for it and all that, and I was like, well, I'm going to be locked in the house for 2 weeks at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I started looking for solutions, and they couldn't even help. I mean, I was like, man, how do y'all not, how does a company this size not have an option for a business? I mean, this is AT&T business. This is not
Right.
home phones. This is AT&T business. And Cox business wasn't really helpful either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was like, well, and that's why when we started working from home and doing a lot, and I told my wife, I'm like, we really don't need to have a brick and mortar type store, you know, and us be in there, you know, 5 days a week from, you know, 9 to 5. It doesn't make any sense because we don't do walk-in traffic. I mean, we have maybe 5 people a month that walk into the office at most. And when she can do a lot of her work from home, that was kind of the once we started kind of seeing where the trend was going, and that's when we started really looking for other solutions that would work for her being in Prairieville, me being in Denham, you know, because I would still like to keep an office open, but I don't necessarily need to staff it. I mean, she doesn't have to be here. I mean, but she does a lot of that, you know, like that administrative work, like I said. You know, and she can do that from the house. There's no need for her to go here, you know, with me when she can do that all from the comfort of home.
Save some gas, save some rent.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised you got to talk to someone at AT&T, because a lot of our clients that have AT&T, they wait 45 minutes to get someone on the line, and then that's usually not even the right person they need to talk to.
It is ridiculous. I know I had a call for one issue, and it was on our internet, and I swear I got sent to 3 different people before I got to the right person, and I was 45 minutes easy, and I was cussing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great point for us to say that we do, for all of our clients that sign on for our managed services, we do offer vendor management. So you don't even have to do that. You don't have to call those people. Cox is down. Don't even call them.
We let Jim do the cussing.
Yeah, let me get on the phone, and I hold their feet to the fire, and I say, okay, all that technical jargon you just told me, it doesn't match what we're seeing. So we need to fix the problem now.
And here are the screenshots and the packet captures and everything else. So don't feed me a line of baloney.
Yeah. Yep. So that is one thing I wanted to pitch Strix a little bit there, is we take care of that vendor side of things. So you don't pay someone to sit on the phone don't pay yourself to sit on the phone for an hour. We'll do it for you, and like I said, we'll hold their feet to the fire and make sure it gets taken care of. So
We'll reboot it before we call.
Yeah, we're at the end of the hour here. This has been some great interaction. We appreciate everybody who came on, just sharing your experiences. All of our Facebook Live watchers.
We hit
5,275,000.
Yeah.
Pretty good for today. Want to get a little higher.
Yeah. Not a record.
But we appreciate it, and thank you for joining us and supporting us. David, what do we got on the schedule for next week, for next week's Chill with Jim?
Well, we're talking about how secure is my home router. With so many people working from home, you can do the antivirus thing on your endpoints. You can do all of that. What a lot of people don't realize is just how vulnerable that router that you have at home, that Wi-Fi router, whatever it is, there are some shocking vulnerabilities within those routers. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, go over what those vulnerabilities are, what it means, that sort of thing. And if I can just plug one more thing, the tropics are heating up down here in Louisiana. I urge everybody to take a look at your disaster recovery plan. What are you going to do if a hurricane hits, if you lose power, if you flood, those sorts of things? Be ready. I was at a Rotary meeting today, and there was a guy from the Weather Association, whatever it's called, and he was talking about the time of every Cat 5 hurricane that has hit the United States. The time from it was a tropical depression to a Cat 5 was 3 days. So you run out of time quick. You look at, oh, it's just a tropical depression. Who cares, right? That thing can heat up very, very quickly. So get your preparation in order now.
Good call. Good call. We offer backup solutions as well for all of that. So at a really great price per month, and we can even back up your email depending on what email provider you use. So hit us up. And again, thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to go ahead and disconnect for those who are on Facebook Live. But if any of the participants want to hang out afterwards to talk a little bit, you're more than welcome. But join us next week, where it's always business up top and pajamas at the bottom. And we thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, William.
That really helped. That answered a lot of questions, and just kind of got to get a plan laid out going forward. I think that was what me and my wife were looking at, is, once we get over there and kind of get to where we can breathe a little bit, we've got to have that kind of in place to go forward with continuing to do work, because that's just going to be the easiest way. Because right now, as it sits, from that driveway to my office now is about 30 minutes. So, and it didn't make sense for both of us, because one will be taking kids to school, one will be coming to work, and vice versa. I mean, it doesn't seem, because we'll be basically taking two vehicles, because one will have to leave to go and pick kids up in the afternoon, and it makes no sense for her to be in the office every day. Now, on some days where I've got to be out, she'll come in and things like that, but she'll leave to go get the kids, and she can still work from the house.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you'll find more and more and more she's not going to come in.
No.
That's what happened with us, and it's you get so comfortable being at home. It's so much easier. You get more done.
Yeah.
Actually, so you start dreading going in, and you find every excuse to not even go in.
Well, that when we talked about having the ability to have a virtual office from here on out, my thought would be, instead of actually having a virtual office, would be, I know there's one in Baton Rouge, because I have a friend of mine who used to use, and it's like a co-opted type office where basically it was one half of the floor of a high rise right off Essen. And it was probably 40 or 50 individual offices that had a one meeting room, and it had like a break room. So of course you had to schedule the time for the meeting room if you needed to use it, but you had a small little office, and rent was like dirt cheap.
Yeah. Becky Sims does that. Southern Oaks. She's in United Plaza.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that's where she was at. Because that was kind of my thought going forward. If once if I don't have to be in this office going forward, would be to do something like that, because there's a lot of days, especially on Mondays and Fridays when nothing goes on. I mean, I could do all my work from my house, and I had a laptop with me, somebody needs something, I can fire that up. Or if I'm out, on Thursdays with B&I and stuff like that, my wife can handle that kind of stuff. So not necessarily being in the office. And plus with the one I think that's the same. It must be the same office at United Plaza. They have a receptionist that can be so. I mean, that's kind of part of the rent. So that was my thought going, with that. So,
Yeah, now that, that does factor into your voice over IP, because generally they may not work well together. As far as you can maybe set a line up to forward to that receptionist, and they can answer and know that it's you, but then trying to get the phone call back to you is going to be pretty difficult. So that's that would be something you'd have to consider. You may just get your phone service through them. So
okay.
Well, generally they're using something like Cox or AT&T, and you don't get the functionality. The tech park where we are, it's included in our rent to have a phone number and someone answering the phone, and we pay for phone service anyway, because it's not functional enough, and they're through eTel. So,
and you're relying on your first contact to be whoever they have sitting in that desk. And so, I mean, they might be awesome at what they do, but they're out for the week for vacation, and you get whoever's filling that seat, and they answer the phones in a way that doesn't promote your business well.
Right. Well, the thought would be, if I ever leave this office, would be to find a solution that maybe I could go with. If people similar to what I'm doing, they need maybe a live office every once in a while type of situation, where we could find something there where we can split rents and make it cheaper on ourselves. Because I mean, not that my rent is overly expensive here. I mean, it's like $850. So but I mean, if that's still $850, overhead that I've got to account for, and if I could lessen that by a little bit, I mean, I can put that towards something else. I mean,
that goes straight to the bottom line.
Maybe we could have a Strix TWFG.
Hey, look, I talked to Becky about it too, because I found a building here in town for sale, and it was a pretty good sized building, but it's in Denham still. But I mean, if we, bought it and it was big enough to have, I mean, you could have probably 5 or 6 different businesses within the building. It was a pretty good sized space, but for the future, of course. But
yeah.
But all right, guys. Well, I won't keep y'all any further. I appreciate y'all having me today.
Man,
Sure thing. Well, join us anytime.
Yeah, we love all the questions. Like, just to get that much feedback and interaction is great. And since we missed each other last week anyways with the full discussion, I hope we covered everything you need.
Yeah, I think so. I think that covered it all. I just need to sit down, I guess, with y'all and just get a plan or a solution in place and see what's going to be best for me and my wife going forward. So whenever y'all have time to do that, let me know, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
All right. Thank y'all.
Good to see you, Will.
Yeah.
Have a good one.